Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Rachel Williams begins now.
Good evening, everyone. What's been deemed one of the largest ever infrastructure developments in Tasmanian history is one step closer to getting off the ground. The business case for a second energy link to the mainland has received a significant boost, but it remains unclear as to who will pay for the $3 billion plan.
This is Tasmania's only electricity link to the mainland, the Basslink cable. But a second connection could be on the way, with its business case bolstered.
This is the largest infrastructure development in Tasmanian history by a long shot.
Pumped hydro opportunities, new wind opportunities, in excess of 2,700 jobs, $5.7 billion in associated investment as a result of this project. It's a game changer for Tasmania.
The proposal for a $3.5 billion, significantly more powerful second link deemed technically feasible. The 350-kilometre Marinus Link cable to run from Burnie to Victoria, designed to pump 3 times more energy into the national market. But given its benefit to the mainland, the government thinks other states should foot the bill.
In the normal circumstances, Tasmanians would pay half and Victorians would pay half. That doesn't fly for this project because Tasmanians should only be paying their fair share. I think a fair share is next to nothing.
Just to confirm, at the moment we don't know who's going to pay for this.
Well, we're having discussions obviously with the Australian government. It has been identified as a priority project.
The value of it is equal to the current value of our current transmission assets. So it's a major project, and to think that all of a sudden the mainland states are going to agree to pay the cost of this is naive.
If the government can find funding, the cable is expected to be up and running by 2027. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Stage 1 water restrictions will be rolled out across Greater Hobart as authorities work to increase reserves for farmers and firefighting. The rules will see constrained hours on watering gardens and lawns, as well as a ban on hosing down surfaces such as driveways. Taswater says it's made the decision due to dropping dam levels.
If there is a bushfire, we're ready for it. We've got all our reservoirs filled. For our farmers and particularly for our agricultural economy, that we can sustain that right through summer, because some of those crops are very dependent on having water.
The restrictions will be effective from December 20 until the end of February. Tasmanian baby formula business Bellamys is weeks away from being foreign-owned after the majority of shareholders today voted in favour of the $1.5 billion Chinese takeover. Our reporter Letitia Wallace has more.
82% of shareholders have approved the takeover of Launceston-based Bellamys Organic by Chinese dairy company Mongu at a meeting in Melbourne today. Last month, the Foreign Investment Review Board approved the acquisition subject to special conditions, including that its headquarters remain in Australia for at least 10 years and that the majority of its board is Australian. It also stated that the company has to invest $12 million into a Victorian processing facility. As part of the agreed terms, Bellamys shareholders will receive $13.25 per share. 99% of the votes cast at the meeting were in favour of the sale. Bellamys will now apply to the New South Wales Supreme Court in order to approve the deal at a hearing on Monday, with the company expected to change hands on December 23.
In a bid to urge more students to complete their studies, 2 Tasmanian high schools have joined forces with a local college. The junior facility is preparing to extend to Year 12 next year, with classes mixing grades across campuses.
A high school spectacular at a college venue. 2 single-sex schools, today combining to rehearse their show away from their home campuses in a new partnership.
We've worked fairly closely, or very closely, with both Ogilvy and Newtown as part of transition of students from grade 10 to grade 11. But we're really excited now that we're extending that partnership so that some of the students can work between the campuses.
All 3 principals today signing a written understanding between the schools, aiming to encourage all students to complete their education. It comes as fresh education data reveals Tasmania lagging behind the rest of the nation.
We want the students to finish Year 12. We want them to then enter into careers or to do further study, because we know that's going to improve their outcomes in life.
Staggered classes will be spread across the 3 campuses from next year to accommodate bursting numbers.
I mean, our campus is full, we're at capacity, and so to be able to look at facilities on other sites and expertise of teachers at other campuses allows students some opportunities that they wouldn't have had.
Rather than think about this as 3 schools in competition, it is genuinely about a partnership. So the things that are going to be offered at each school are unique.
With concerns raised over the impact on existing colleges when other Tasmanian schools extend to Year 12 next year.
I guess that can be a concern, but at the end of the day, what we're on about is what's in the best interest of our students.
Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmanian News.
A driver has been taken to hospital after his car ploughed through the front of a cafe in Punchbowl this afternoon. It caused extensive damage to the shop. It's believed the man suffered a medical episode before the crash.
The after-school rush turned into a standstill on Punchbowl Road as a car came crashing through the side of Reserve Cafe 57.
And was just getting ready for the after-school rush, and I just heard a massive bang and couch went flying across the floor, and I don't know, it all just felt a bit weird for a couple of seconds, and I was just looking at it because I couldn't hear any noise. There was no real noise after the initial bang.
It was just very odd to see out of nowhere. It wasn't expected.
Fire crews were quick on scene as they worked to winch the car away from the shop front.
The cars hit the natural gas installation on the outside. There was some gas escape, but we isolated that.
Paramedics pulled the driver out and took him away in an ambulance. It's believed he suffered a medical episode moments before the smash.
Seemed okay, but obviously not great, a bit shaken up.
The front of the store suffered extensive damage.
It's done a significant amount of structural damage to the wall. It's a double brick structure, so it's pushed either side outwards.
It's a major blow to the small business, which is in its peak period, just weeks away from Christmas.
Especially this time of year. I mean, we've just had the best month we could ever hope for, and it's just been growing and growing all the time.
Investigations are continuing. Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmanian News.
The rich history and hidden secrets of the state's west is set to be explored in a new exhibition. With artefacts dating back millions of years, it's the first in a special series looking into the shaping of Tasmania.
Taking a step back through time in a snapshot of Tasmania's past, adding the final touches to this in-depth vision of the West.
This history goes back millions of years ago. One of the key ideas behind this exhibition is to really present the West as quite a complex and compelling and nuanced place.
The exhibition is spread across 4 galleries, filled with more than 100 pieces of clothing, photos, memorabilia and natural curiosities, and launching tomorrow at the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery.
The western part of Tasmania is often kind of imagined and not necessarily considered well by people here in Hobart or on the east, and we want to tell Tasmanian stories from the west, their stories.
West Out on the Edge is aiming to provide a greater understanding of the region.
I think this will inspire people to really think carefully about the West and maybe inspire people to visit the West themselves.
And is the first display in a long-term series, capturing the stories and heart of the state.
We've got so many stories to tell from the western part of Tasmania and indeed across Tasmania. And they have different influences. And all of these stories really could be told in 4 galleries. We wanted to give 4 galleries to this thematic of being the people of the West.
The exhibition is on at TMAG until May 10. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmanian News.
Another 13 career firefighters are expected to be on the ground in time for the state's bushfire season. The recruits are halfway through a tough training process, and today they had a taste of the fire and fury to come.
It might only be a drill, but don't expect dawdling here. Today's test for trainees: take out the flames ripping through a charred car and edge towards the dummy driver lying in harm's way. Just another day in the classroom of Tasmania's next firefighters.
Next week we're into road crash rescue, which is around 25 to 30% of our work nowadays. So the program moves fast and they need to learn a lot very quickly.
Once this course has come out, there'll be 336 trained firefighters on the ground
The group is expected to finish training by February, and with the bushfire season already busy, the chances are they could be seeing action soon after.
We know at that stage, our crews will be working extremely hard, and to inject 30 new people out there will be very timely.
Meanwhile, the Minister says short-term recommendations from a report into the last bushfire season are now in place.
They're all completed, and the medium to long-term ones are still in progress. We have a dedicated resource within Tas Fire Service that are working on those recommendations.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Clarence City Council is kicking up a stink over a sign at Richmond's Museum. In a post on social media, the owners said they'd been forced to take down their sign because it was not positive to the streetscape of the heritage town. The council says it received complaints about the signage and is just acting in accordance with the planning scheme. The sign is expected to be removed in the coming days. The Smith family has launched its Christmas appeal to help Tasmanian families struggling with school costs. Today, students from Gagebrook Primary School celebrated the end of the Learning for Life program. But the charity says it needs the public's help to reach more schools across the state.
We will never meet the needs of the number of children who are living in poverty in Australia, so there's always a level of unmet need. So we've got, in Tasmania, we're working in 25 schools. We could certainly work in more than that.
They're hoping to raise $4.3 million to help 10,000 students nationally. A father whose teenage son died in a workplace accident is calling for the state government to fund upgrades at the Workers' Memorial Park in Launceston. Guy Hudson's 16-year-old son Matthew was killed after being crushed by a forklift at a meatworks in 2004. He'd like to see an educational installation created as well as a barbecue area so that grieving families have a special place to remember loved ones.
Please take it into account and fund this project. It's an important project. It could well be a feather in the cap of Tasmania to do something like this for the workers.
It was supposed to be not just a memoriam but a celebration of life and the contribution that workers make. So it needs a fair bit of work.
A petition calling for the government to fund the project in next year's state budget has received more than 1,000 signatures.
Well, that's something obviously as a government we'll look forward to responding to that petition and having a look at it very carefully.
The group would also like to see an arbour and new walkways built. In a world-first discovery, Tasmanian researchers have revealed the shocking impact that plastic debris is having on the globe's hermit crab population. After visiting the remote Cocos and Henderson Islands, the Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies team found more than 500,000 crabs had died after becoming trapped inside plastic containers. Scientists say the loss could have worldwide implications.
They play a crucial role in turning over soil and helping degrade forest leaf litter, allowing seeds to germinate. And so they're one of these keystone species.
Further study will now be done to examine the full scale of the losses. A film produced in Tasmania has cleaned up at last night's ACTA Awards. The Nightingale won 6 awards from 15 nominations, including Best Feature Film, Best Lead Actress and Best Direction. The drama tells the story of an Irish convict who sought revenge for a murder in Van Diemen's Land during the 1820s.
Most important thank you goes to, I want to dedicate this to the Tasmanian Aboriginal people, and especially Uncle Jim Everett, our beautiful associate producer, Aboriginal consultant on the film, for allowing us to tell this shared story, for allowing us to use the beautiful and ever-evolving Palawakani language in the film.
Lambs of God, which was partially filmed in Tasmania, won 9 awards, including Best Feature or Miniseries, while Rosehaven was runner-up in 2 categories.
Dylan Sunderland is leading the men's field in the Tour of Tasmania after the brutal stage up Powatina Road, while Sarah Gigante won the opening stage of the women's tour, which has 5 Tasmanians in the mix. Talk about a baptism of fire. Stage 1 of the women's tour tackles the steep, snaking Powatina Road. So what's the secret to survival?
You need to pace yourself, because if you go too hard at the start, you're going to really hurt at the end.
Nutrition, definitely nutrition. You just got to
keep going, make sure you're fueling correctly because it's a long climb.
While the women left Longford with the long climb ahead, the men had already beaten the burn after leaving earlier in the day. Stage 2 for the field was made even harder by strong headwinds, but Chris Harper from Team Bridge Lane dealt with it best to cross the line in first place.
Yeah, it was super hard today. It was a massive headwind most of the way up the climb, so yeah, just sort of putting out a fair bit of power, but it felt very dead and very slow, so yeah, very hard day.
The team claimed the top 4 spots in today's stage. New yellow jersey holder Dylan Sunderland hopes the team can keep its buffer tomorrow.
Obviously got a few cards to play tomorrow with Chris and myself, and also the 2 boys in 3rd and 4th, so we got plenty of cards to play, not necessarily just myself, so yeah, we've got options and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Stage 3 is on the northwest coast, starting at Ulverston. Tasmanian John Stagg is still on top at the World Fly Fishing Championships. The angler from Relbia leads more than 100 competitors in the Central Highlands, while Australia has jumped into the lead in the team rankings, with the Czech Republic, France, Spain and England rounding out the top 5. The Aussies have caught 90 trout so far. There are 2 days left in the competition.
Good evening. Friendly Beach is the high today with 22 degrees as the winds continued to blow across the state. Hobart and Launceston 21, Burnie 18 and Devonport 20, St Helens 20 as well, Grove and Ouse 18 degrees, Flinders Island 17, Smithton and Low Head 16, King Island 15 and Strawn 13. Cloud across most of Tasmania due to the strong onshore flow. Most of it you can see there banking up over the west. The same system has the cloud over Victoria, patchy cloud over inland Western Australia and coastal parts of the Northern Territory and Cape York. The rest fairly clear. Tomorrow a cold front passes through as a high in the Bight tracks a little bit closer to us. Surface troughs remain around the mainland. The winds westerly again, just to be consistent, up to 20 to 30 knots and to 35 knots over northern and southern waters, swells to 5.5 metres in the south. We have a gale warning from Stanley to St Helens Point and from Wineglass Bay to Low Rocky Point, a strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters and also for the inland lakes. A warning to sheep graziers for parts of the Midlands, Upper Derwent and South East. Into tomorrow we go. Showers and wind for Hobart, 17 the top, 15 for Huonville, showery and windy for Campania, 17 the maximum. 19 the high for Launceston, windy and cloudy. Devonport a possible light shower and 19 also for Georgetown. For Burnie tomorrow, 17. Strawn, showery, 14, just 17 for Wynyard. And along the east coast tomorrow, St Helens expects a top of 21 degrees, a mostly sunny day. Becoming windy for Swansea, 20 the high and 17 for Port Arthur. The UV very high, and that sits at 9 right across Tasmania. On Saturday, showers for the west, central and south, decreasing in the afternoon but fine elsewhere. Fine on Sunday apart from an early shower over the west and far south, and on Monday mainly fine with north to northeast winds. Look at this, 41 degrees in Perth tomorrow before a cool change later. They'll need that. Cloudy weather on the way for Adelaide and Melbourne, sunny in Canberra, hazy again over Sydney, a hot day with smoke haze for Brisbane. Cloudy in Hobart, sunny in Launceston, 18 at the moment, Devonport sunny and 16 degrees. Rach, it seems like Tom Johnson really enjoyed his time on the Central Highlands. In fact, he did try a bit of fishing, and just like his work in the nightclubs, the fish weren't going for his lines either.
You are going to be in so much trouble, Murph. Thank you for that. Well, before we leave you tonight, a celebrity has attracted plenty of admirers at Launceston Seaport. Showing off its best side for the camera, the seal was spotted sunbaking in front of a popular restaurant strip this afternoon. The biggest fur seals can weigh up to 350 kilos and can dive as deep as 200 metres to catch their food. Wasn't soaking up too much sun, that's for sure. Well, that's all your news for now. I'll be back a little later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.